What is Confucianism? Why don't some people even consider Confucianism to be a religion at all? How was it possible that people were able to practice Confucianism simultaneously with a religion like Buddhism? And why didn't Confucianism spread around the globe like other religions did? Let's answer these questions.
Who founded Confucianism? Confucianism was founded by Confucius, also known as Kung Fu Tzu or Master Kong. Confucius was spoken of as one of the greatest and most influential Chinese philosophers. He was a minor official who lived throughout the Warring States period. By developing Confucianism, he hoped that it would lead to a more stable society. Confucius believed that the way to bring about a peaceful state was to look to the past sage emperors. Major figures in Confucianism. In ancient Confucianism, there were no specific god or gods. Confucius believed that supernatural matters such as this were unknowable. Despite this, he greatly encouraged the respect for God, ancestors, and religious traditions. However, during the Song Dynasty era and the following years, new interpretations of Confucian teachings were adopted. The term Neo-Confucianism was used to define these versions of Confucian thought. Neo-Confucianism was a response and reaction to Buddhism growing and at the start of overshadowing Confucianism. During this time of new ideas and teachings, Confucianism gained a spiritual element in becoming a religion. Zhu Xi was an early Neo-Confucian thinker who began new teachings, one of which being the idea of an ideal human, the sage. The sage was a person who could preserve mental stability and serenity while at the same time dealing with social problems. The Neo-Confucian thinkers adopted the spiritual idea of universal sagehood. The state of universal sagehood would be achieved if one successfully studied the new Confucian principles.
The core tenets and beliefs of Confucianism. Confucianism believes in self-discipline and draws from traditional values. Family was a large part of society, and each person had a crucial role both within the household and to serve China. It was crucial to Confucianism that society functions smoothly and that everyone understands their place. Confucian's beliefs surrounded the principle of Ren and loving others. He showed this by stating the Golden Rule. He said, "What you do not wish for yourself, do not do for others," a rule that is still in use today. Confucius stressed the significance for respecting gods, traditions, and their ancestors. There is much value in having a strict moral code and behaving properly. Confucianism revolved around 5 virtues: Zhen, Yi, Li, Qi, and Xin. In that order, they mean to have sympathy for others, to feel bad after doing something wrong, to have manners, to have wisdom, and to be loyal and have good faith. The origin and spread of Confucianism. Confucianism originated in the Zhou dynasty of eastern China under the rule of Confucius during the period of 551 BCE to 479 BCE. Confucian ideals were spread forcibly to Korea and Vietnam, while the Japanese willingly adopted some of their ideas. Sinification occurred as the Chinese diffused their Confucian ideas into neighboring countries. One person who helped spread Confucianism was Mengzi, or Mencius. He encouraged Confucian ideas to spread throughout his age, allowing the religion to reach a much wider audience. When Korea was conquered by Emperor Wudi, Confucianism was able to infiltrate into Korean culture. The elite adapted Confucian schooling techniques, causing many others to learn in order to be considered elite. Similar processes occurred in Vietnam. The strong Chinese military attempted to assimilate Vietnamese culture and get them to adopt Confucianism, but the Vietnamese were much more resilient. Only elites adopted positive aspects of the religion, and the lower class did not see much change. Contrary, the Japanese willingly took on the best aspects of Confucianism, such as military tactics, bureaucracy, and farming techniques to better their society.
How did Confucianism build social structure? Well, to start off, Confucianism is credited with making Chinese societies fiercely patriarchal and defining its social structure, starting off with scholar bureaucrats, also known as the founders and the leaders of this belief. Therefore, they were at the top. They were also believed to have all the knowledge and the wisdom to maintain social order. This was then followed by farmers, because they produced all the necessary goods, which then they gave to the people and sold in the market. And number 3 were artisans and merchants. It was easier for merchants to be a little higher in the social class since they possessed necessary skills, which then they used to create their own merchandise. And for merchants, it was quite a little more difficult since all they did was buy and sell things. Bureaucrats were admired in Confucianist societies. Since they were based on wisdom and kindness, everybody looked at them with gratitude and respect. They also introduced to their people the 5 relationships of Confucianism, which consisted of father-child, ruler-subject, husband-wife, elder brother to younger brother, and friend to friend. Their beliefs were based on human behavior more than anything. Thus, they were very organized and lived peaceful societies. Where was Confucianism the most dominant? By 1450. As it is known, the belief of Confucianism originated in China, and throughout the centuries it spread through China and to neighboring countries such as Vietnam, Korea, and Japan. Confucianism spread very rapidly due to the popularity and power of China, as well as Confucius, who was the founder of this belief. Neighboring countries and even the people in China would be influenced by the leaders of the Chinese Empire, which is why mostly everyone with close proximity to China would have adopted this belief by this time period. Therefore, most of the influence of Confucianism remained dominant in East Asia.
Politics and ethics often go hand in hand, and for example, a political ruler will typically govern based on their personal beliefs and what they think is best for their community. This relates to religion, as in most situations, your morals and ethics are shaped by your religion and personal beliefs. Confucianism, as a religion based in ethics, impacted politics at the time by affecting the leaders who prescribed to it. Confucianism integrated itself into the structure of the government and created a distinct separation between the government and the court. This also helped aid with civil disputes, as there are clear and definitive separations between relationships. Also, under the Han Dynasty, Prime Minister Yongsun Hong worked with Emperor Wu to make Confucianism an official ideology, and around 50 BCE, all government schools had to make offerings to Confucius. It was mandatory to teach Confucianism in schools, which resulted in an increase in students taking the civil service exam, to the point where there were 100 students a year entering the government via the text. This created more Confucian scholars in the Chinese government and less interference from people who do not prescribe to Confucianism. These Confucian scholars and researchers in the government worked to immortalize the sacred text of Confucianism soon, solidifying its impact into society. During the Tang Dynasty, the government sponsored an officially canonized version of the Confucian text called The Correct Meaning of the Five Classics. Also, because Confucianism is a religion that is heavily based in the general goodness of man, there is a heavy emphasis on personal morality rather than a strict enforcement of discipline by the central government.
Treatment of women under Confucianism. Confucius declared it was the law of nature that women should be held under the dominance of man. Confucianism was built on a patriarchal society where men dominated and women subordinated to them. Women were considered to be lower status, and they were bound to men by 3 obedience. The Book of Rights emphasizes these 3 obedience. When she is young, she obeys her father. When she is married, she obeys her husband. When she is widowed, she obeys her son. As well as 4 virtues: morality, modesty, proper speech, and domestic skills. The main rules for women were to bear a male son for her husband and to take care of the home. Under the Confucian belief, everyone had their role in society, and failure to maintain a proper relationship would result in disharmony and chaos. Often, women were the ones viewed as the distraction. With the Song Dynasty and the revival of Confucianism, restrictions on women tightened, especially in the elite class. Women were discouraged to gain an education or career. The practice of foot binding associated with beauty led to even more restrictions, as women became confined and more dependent on the male figure. Confucianism was an ethical, social, and political belief system rather than an atheistic religion. It was based on rules of conducts that governed all relationships, where responsibilities had to be observed to preserve harmony. Government leaders embraced Confucianism because it created an orderly society. However, Confucianism didn't spread around the world because it evolved only within the context of Chinese culture.